Now this is all I have to do and without paying any banking fee. When I first opened up my LLC, I would spend hours on Excel spreadsheets trying to figure out how much to pay myself and then doing each transfer one by one when I could have been doing it like this all along. So today what I want to do is literally pull the curtain on what I've been using, the exact system I have for automating my finances, which I know is going to save you a handful of hours each month. And since Relay is sponsoring this video, you'll be able to see the entire workflow inside the banking platform so that it's easier for you to recreate. The process has 5 steps. Step 1 is to establish your percentages. This will also work for your personal finances, and I'll share the percentages I follow for personal finances during step 5. But for business, it basically means creating a percentage for 4 different buckets. Your owner's pay, how much you're paying yourself and anybody else who's an owner. It's pretty simple. Taxes, because yes, an LLC will require you to pay taxes. Operating expenses, which basically means anything you're using to run the business. In my example, it's softwares, contracts, people that I'm hiring, different tools that I'm using. And last but not least, profit, which is the money that you're actually taking home as like the fruit of running a business. Think of it as like the equivalent to your hourly wage, right? That's like your pay. But this is the profit for running a business, which everyone needs to have. So I follow the percentages from the profit book first. I'm gonna put the chart right here so you guys can follow along. And yes, these percentages apply to any industry, any range, any style of business that you're doing, and also any monetary value that you're at, no matter if you're starting off and like don't even have a client, or if you're already like, hey, I'm like super ahead of the game making millions, it still applies. There's basically 6 different columns on the chart, as you can see, and you find exactly where you think you're going to be at for the following tax year in terms of annual revenue. So you look at the column that corresponds to your annual revenue, and then that's the percentage that you're going to follow along for each of the categories. Following percentages basically means that no matter if you're having a slow month, the best month of your whole entire year, you're always paying yourself, you're setting aside for taxes, and you know exactly how much you can outsource. Let's say if you want to hire an editor, an assistant, or whoever that is. When I hire, that is the only number I look at to be able to determine like, okay, can I hire this person? Like, do I have the capacity of hiring this person? Because something that's definitely important to avoid is to begin stacking up on all these expenses, and then at the end of the month, whatever's coming in money is actually already leaving. Like, you're not even taking anything home because you have all these expenses to pay. For step number 2, you're going to want to have those categories as accounts in your bank. And the great thing is that step 1, 2, and 3 out of all 5 only need to be done once and you're good to go. That also means that when you finish watching the video, your finance routine is only going to be 2 steps, and those are the same exact 2 steps that I follow and that I've followed for more than 5 years now. Even before becoming a Relay partner, I switched over from to Relay because I wanted a bank that would allow me to create the different separate bank accounts for all 4 categories: owners pay, taxes, operating expenses, and profit. My old bank used to have fees, which Relay doesn't have, and account minimums, which again, Relay doesn't have. So as soon as I finish the walkthrough through all 5 of the steps that I follow, you're going to head to tools.theloragomez.com/relay to open an account and stop paying bank fees for good. So you'll have those 4 accounts, but you're also going to want to make one more, which is going to be your main income account. Let me show you how to do it. This is what your Relay dashboard is going to look like. This is a fake account that I'm using for demonstration. So inside your business, it's pretty much going to look like this. You'll have your income, which is the one that we're going to create right now, operating expenses, owners, profit, and taxes. If you're an LLC, you're typically not doing payroll yet, so you wouldn't have that. To add an account, it's very, very easy. You can do it in a matter of seconds, and you can have up to 20 accounts per business in Relay. So you'll head over here to add an account, and you can choose between a checking or a savings account. In this case, it's going to be a checking account, and we're going to name it income, which is going to be your main income account. So when you're connecting your bank account to PayPal, Stripe, whatever you're using to get paid, you only need to give that account number, the account number that is going to show up for the income account that we just created. And then for internal management, it would be these four right here: operating, owner's comp, profit, and then your taxes. Once those accounts are created, you're good to go. Step 3, again, a step you only have to do once, is to create your auto transfer rules. Relay makes it extremely easy to leave those percentages that you set up back in step 1 already automated. On your dashboard right here at the top, you'll see the move money option, and then underneath it, you'll see the auto transfer rules. You'll see on the dashboard that you have 2 options. You can pick between a maximum balance rule and the profit first rule. I started off with the profit first rule first, so let me walk you through that one. Basically here, what you're gonna wanna do is do your profit first monthly strategy, or however else you wanna call it. You can choose the frequency at which you want this to happen. I personally recommend monthly, or maximum like twice a month, so you don't have all these like transfers going on. I would say monthly towards the end of the month. Now, however you decide to do your transfers and how much money you decide to leave in each account is completely up to you. I'm gonna do an example based on what the Profit First book recommends, which is typically what I like to follow. So normally you would leave 0 in your actual income account because everything gets distributed to the other 4 internal. Remember, everything comes into your income, and then from your income, it goes out to all the other 4. Then you open up the Profit First chart, which I have here, the percentages, which is normally what you'd be following. And for this case, I'm going to use the percentages in column A. So a business that's making anywhere from 0 to 250,000 a year. So 50% would get transferred to owner's pay, owner's comp, however you want to call it. Then we have 30% over to operating expenses, 15% to taxes, and 5% to profit. You always make sure that you have 100 out of 100, and you can automatically create your auto transfer rule to be set up and be happening on autopilot without you having to touch a thing. That's like the main one that I would focus on creating, just to have like your monthly routine automatically happening on autopilot. But then you also have the option to set up a maximum balance rule, which is super helpful when you're trying to save up for a big expense. So let's say I want to get new gear for YouTube. I can set up an automation that anything over $5,000 from my operating expenses account gets sent over to a savings account. And without even doing anything, the money will begin adding up in that separate bank account. Just imagine all the scenarios you could use that for. Even setting money aside for a down payment on a house, or saving up to go on that business retreat that you've been dying to go to. That's one that I'm personally using it for. Lately, I've read a lot of books about money. Actually more than 25, and I did share a video here with the 5 biggest lessons. But if there's one thing that all the authors mentioned and agreed on, it's that if you can automate your money, you're already making more money. Step 4. Now this is something you can do monthly. Everything else that we just discussed, it's a one-time and done. I haven't had to touch that in years. This step is when you're actually paying yourself out each month. Clearly the topic that we're discussing is way too hot because even the camera had to turn off to cool down. But back to what I was saying, step 4 is one that you can do monthly, which is all about the process of actually paying yourself out, which you can technically leave reoccurring if you have a set amount that you want to pay yourself either monthly or bi-weekly. If you were looking to leave it reoccurring, you'd scroll down to payments. This is actually where you would do it either way, if you're doing it each month or if you want it to happen automatically. You would click on new payment. You would add yourself here as a new person. Again, this is something that you only have to do once. And let's say that this is your account. You would scroll down and select exactly how you want to get paid. And then you would select exactly where those funds are coming from. So since this is a pay for you, it would come from the owner's compensation. You would select the amount. Let's say it's $800. You can select here if it's happening one time or reoccurring. If you decide to go with reoccurring, you select when you want it to start, how often you want it to happen, and that's pretty much already how you would leave it set up. If it is just a one-time payment, you would actually put in a little title here for that transfer, just to keep it organized and easy to track. And once you have that all set, you'll just click on the next button to confirm it. This is also great if you have contractors like editors or assistants, or you're planning on hiring as their business grows. It's super easy, and literally everything I've showed in the automation system is free, so there's no excuse not to do it. You just have to open up your Relay account by going to tools.thealoragomez.com/relay or clicking the link in the description. Lastly, step 5. Once your paycheck hits your personal account, I know this is where it gets really good. First of all, I personally love to soak it in. How cool is it that I get to run a business I love and literally call it my job? I think sometimes we get used to it and take it for granted, but every time that paycheck hits, that's when you should remind yourself. And once that happens, you go all the way back to the percentages. Not the same percentages that we talked about for business, but this time your personal percentages. Now, a lot of people advocate for the 50-30-20. Others like the 70-20-10, but my favorite actually comes from Ramit Sethi from the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and who also has a series on Netflix. And basically what he recommends is this: 60% to fixed costs. That means your house, your car, your groceries, like the living expenses. 5 to 10% to savings, 10% to investments, and now this is my favorite, 20% to guilt-free spending. That means on what makes you happy. For me, hands down, it's traveling, which is why I've been traveling full time for the last year. But what is it for you? Tell me in the comments.